Happy Women's History Month. No matter what major corporation takes it off of their calendar app, it still is what it is. Hello and welcome. This is the Astrology of the Week Ahead podcast. I'm your host and your astro bestie, Chani Nicholas. And here we celebrate everything. We believe in celebrating everything and in celebrating everyone, no matter what kind of authoritarian rule every corporation bends towards. And really, this is just a moment where we get to see what kind of spine, what kind of moral compass, what kind of playing to all of us, all of the corporations have been doing these past couple of years. Because if you can change your position so quickly, I guess you never meant it in the first place. Not that I put so much on things that are about, a certain month being dedicated to a certain group of people, because I think every day is Black History Month Day. Every day is Women's History Month Day. Every day is Pride to me. So it's not about it needing to be like a certain month, but it is fascinating to see how quickly they fall and to see how hollow and how empty all of those gestures were in the first place. Did I mention that Venus has just stationed retrograde March 1st? So if you're listening to this on Monday, it was 2 days ago. If you're listening to this on Sunday, it was yesterday. That is the biggest deal this week, even though we talked about it last week. This week's astrology per se is not that deep. Like, it's not a week that I would circle on the calendar, but it is a month. March is the month that I have circled in red and orange and underlined almost every single day of, except for this week. This week is an in-between week. But again, Venus has just stationed retrograde in the trailblazing, loud, in-your-face sign of Aries. So that motif is dominating the scene this week, even though it technically happened on the 1st, on the first day of Women's History Month. And Venus is the planet that represents women and femmes and queer folks and justice and equality and everything that keeps the world in balance. And also, it's the planet of dance and music and pleasure and joy and having a good time and delighting in life's wondrousness. So part of the call to action that this Venus retrograde is giving us is to remember to center our art, our self-expression, our dance, our music, and our joy in every single action of disobeying the powers that be that are absolutely out to erode every single piece of equality, justice, anything that we have been able to amass. They are here to dismantle any of the collective power that we've built and anything that we have been able to systematically put in place to say, we're here. You can't erase our history. You cannot erase our contributions to the world and to some of the most incredible inventions, creations, and ways of being on the planet. Some of the greatest works of art, some of the greatest works of literature, some of the greatest feats of humankind have been done by other people that are normally recognized in these systems. Okay, so Venus retrograde is dominating the scene. This is what I want to reinstate. This is, again, our call to action is to put our art, our creative self-expression, because again, Venus is a planet of culture creation. I don't know if I've said that so far, but it is. If I haven't said it thus far, Venus is a planet of creating culture. We create culture in a lot of different ways. One of the most enjoyable ways that we create culture is through our art, is through our music, is through our dance, is through the ways in which we work with color and sound and visuals and text and our bodies. And we cannot have a revolution that will endure in the ways that we need it to endure in this moment without centering our joy, without being in the full bliss of our physical self-expression, dancing, being in the music, being immersed in beauty. We need that. We deserve that. And so each and every single one of us needs to take that call to action from Venus stationing retrograde in Aries so seriously. Our joy is a serious thing to protect and to make sure flourishes. Because the more joyful we are, the more we are going to want to keep engaging with this struggle, with this moment, with this movement that we are a part of. And if we just look back 100 years, 200 years, 30 years, any time frame that you want to look back on, there were people organizing in love, in joy, in art, in creativity, and in solidarity for justice to occur. And it didn't happen overnight. Everything takes time. We have to be able to be in a sustained, joyful, active moment. We are connecting to movements that have been going on for centuries. Nothing that we're dealing with now is new. Repression is not new. Oppression is not new. Supremacy is not new. We have been dealing with this in some way, shape, or form for thousands of years. We are in a lineage of resistance. And we have to center our joy and our creative acts of defiance in our movement. At least I think, again, that's what Venus stationing retrograde is all about. Okay, Venus station retrograde on March 1st. I went into this in great detail last week, not to just keep singing the same tune, but every 8 years, Venus retrogrades through the exact same part of the sky, roughly within like a degree or two, as it did. So 8 years ago was 2017. We had the same exact Venus retrograde. So I'm hoping, I'm praying that as Venus is stationing retrograde, it's gathering us and it's reminding us of our collective beauty, our collective power, of how important it is to build culture together, to create a culture of resistance and joy and beauty and collective care. It's not all going to happen in a day. It's not all going to happen this week, but that is the call. That is the rally cry. And I do think that Venus's retrograde is a rally cry. So what happens on Monday is that Mercury, planet of communication, also moves into Aries. And next week, Mercury will also station retrograde in Aries, the same sign as Venus. They will be retrograding through Aries together. They will meet up and talk about this kind of beauty and joy and collective outbursts of solidarity and disobedience and art making that we need to do. So Mercury moves into Aries on the 3rd of March, makes a sextile with Pluto on the 5th of March, on Wednesday. This is really good astrology for saying what you mean and meaning what you say and communicating in a very direct and bold and courageous kind of way so that it leads to some kind of transformation or so that you are fully embodied in your own agency and therefore your own power, and therefore the ripple effect of that goes out so that everybody else around you is like, I can do that too. Yes, I'm going to actually do one better. Great. do one better than I'm doing, please. And I'll try to do one better than you're doing. And we're just going to try to mobilize together. I know it's a weird thing to say, mobilization, when I'm talking about planets stationing retrograde. This is a review. And part of the review is, what did we do in 2017 that worked? And what did we miss in 2017? What did we really get wrong? Or what did some people, some movements really get wrong in 2017? How can we learn from what didn't work back in 2017, adjust, reconfigure ourselves, and take what did work from 2017 and imbue the moment with that and make adjustments and corrections, course corrections where we can and where we need to. What about this moment and this movement, whatever it is that's getting galvanized now, is connected to that time, but that time's obviously connected to a million other times before it. Because again, we are in a lineage of resistance. We are in a lineage of movement building. We need to remember that we are not tasked with reinventing the wheel. Whatever is already working needs to be strengthened. Whatever is already collecting and gathering people and making a dent or making some kind of progress needs to be given our energy. What can we review? How can we look back and say, oh, that's how a group of people made a difference? That's what they did. And it bare minimum, most of it, 90% of it was not shiny and fancy and Instagrammable. 90% of it was hard work and literal organizing, literal strategy of caring for communities as we are venturing into moments of trying to disrupt the harm that is being enacted. So Monday through Wednesday, great moments to announce something that is bold, that is straightforward, and that is going to embolden you and hopefully everybody else who hears it, or that you're emboldened, that we're emboldened by each other. On Friday, the sun makes a trine with Mars, which also does have that energy of like being fierce and directed. And the sun is currently in Pisces and Mars is currently still in Cancer, just stationed direct on February 23rd. Thank goodness. I'm hoping that that helps us to move some of this. But this is like moving an ocean. This is like the flow of water and how powerful it is. This is about saying, this is how I feel and this is how I want to connect to people. And I'm going to be courageous. Again, it's Mars, right? Mercury is in a Mars ruled sign. Venus is in a Mars ruled sign. Mars is now direct in a moon ruled sign. So it's very changeable, but it is about connecting to what people feel, how I feel, and initiating something that helps people connect to how they feel and moving them in that direction. So how do we connect to how people are feeling so that we can move like a stream of water towards a goal that we want to get to? And that's the astrology for the week. It's just Mercury changing signs, making a sextile to Pluto, and the sun trine Mars. Again, very simple. Like you wouldn't even really think about it, except for the fact that that's where Mercury is going to station retrograde next week. But next week's astrology is so big because we're having the first eclipse near the South Node in Virgo for a couple of decades. That's happening on the 13th of March. And then on the 14th of March, the ruler of that eclipse, Mercury, is stationing retrograde. So we're having eclipse times Mercury retrograde. Venus is already retrograde, which means there's going to be a clustering of events that occur. It's going to be really packed. And we're not feeling that already, right? The part of your chart that contains Virgo is so important this week and also this month. The South Node entered Virgo on January 11th, and the South Node is a place of clearing and cleaning out, and we might even say, if we're lucky, healing. So Virgo is a sign that is all about the details and the specifics and working hard and being very detailed oriented. Do I like the fact that the South Node is in Virgo right now and that details and facts and data and the truth and hard work and being meticulous gets lost? No, I don't. I wouldn't choose that for the state of emergency we find ourselves in. But here we are. Our task, and then Mercury stationing retrograde at the same time. Again, a lot of facts, a lot of data. A lot of that stuff is going to be very exceptionally wobbly at this time because of these events kind of piling up together, right? So we know that there's like a clustering of events next week that is about facts, data, and some of that getting lost or swept away or going missing for a moment. That eclipse is also going to be opposing Saturn. So there is a kind of counterbalance to this, which says, no, your task is to be strict about the guidelines and the details. So we can hope and pray that Saturn, even though it's kind of harsh, saves some of the data and the details that we need to preserve. But it certainly doesn't look great for that. What it does look helpful for is really truly knowing that it is not about doing anything or showing up in any way that is perfect. There is no perfect person. There is no perfect solution. There is no perfect movement. There is no perfect leader. We need to work with what we've got in the way that we can, in the moments that we can. And that's it. There's nothing here that is going to look perfect or feel perfect or be in any way, shape, or form perfect. That is not the point of this moment. The point of this moment is to say, okay, it's a mess. What do we have to work with? And how can we most efficiently, effectively work with it? That's next week. So because of everything that's happening in March, because March is one of the most intense months of 2025, if you can believe it, we've got a Venus retrograde, we've got a Mercury retrograde, we've got 2 eclipses, and then Neptune changing signs for the first time since 1861. Gulp. So we have our work cut out for us. And because of that, we wanted to give you a little promo code. It is Chani 30, Chani 30 for 30 days of absolutely free premium content. And what that does is it gives you readings on every single planet and point in your chart that we list. It gives you guided meditations. It gives you journal prompts weekly that are about the astrology and how it specifically lands in your chart. It gives you rituals weekly to work with. And of course, it also gives you a weekly personalized reading from yours truly, your Astro Bestie, and yearly readings. So you can listen to readings that are about each quarter of the year for you specifically. And then you can also listen to readings every single week. I'm here. I'm talking you through it. I'm talking us through it. I'm talking myself through it. We wanted to give you this to help support you through the March wildness of 2025. One of the months of the year that just has the most astrology happening all at once. It's a little bit of a head spinning month. So we wanted to help you to ground and to find some kind of point of focus to help move yourself through this in the best way possible, because we know that when a lot of astrology is going on, it is an opportunity for our growth. It is an opportunity to have a breakthrough. It is an opportunity to heal, and it is an opportunity to realign ourselves with our greatest good and the greatest good for all involved. Okay, now we come to the portion of the podcast where I answer one of your questions. And we get this question a lot. So I wanted to talk about your moon sign, the sign that your moon was in, or the sign that the moon was in the moment you were born. Remembering that what's so important is to think about the exact moment you were born in the exact place that you were born. So when we think about that, the moon actually moves really quickly. It's the fastest planetary body. So it's changing signs every 2.5 days-ish. So when you know your time of birth and you know where you were born and you enter all that into the Chani app or anywhere else, you're pulling up the precise location of the moon. So you're looking at it in terms of what sign it was in, again, and it changes signs really quickly, but also what other planets it was speaking to. And there's so much information and intel in that. And this is what the moon will tell you about in your chart. The moon is the planet that tells you about your physical life. The moon is our closest satellite. It is the planet that tells us about where we are in time and space. The moon breaks down the big light of the sun, which is your divine intelligence or the spark of divine intelligence that was placed in us. It's how we shine. It's like one of our, biggest things in our chart to understand. And the moon reflects the light of the sun. So the moon we can think of it as how we unpack day to day, moment to moment, week to week, year to year, that big, huge light of the sun. We can't do like our life's purpose all at once. We can't do it like, oh yes, I know it, and I'm just self-actualized and bam, there it is. We live in a physical reality. That's the moon. That's what the moon tells us about. We live in time. That's what the moon tells us about. We live in this context, if you will. And so the moon will tell you how to unpack the meaning of your life in a daily kind of way. It also tells you about your body. The moon also tells us about conception. If you're looking for like physical conception and fertility, the moon will tell you about that in your chart. And if you're thinking about conceiving anything, about giving life to anything, the moon is part of how we do that because the moon is moist and wet and tells us about how we actually create a situation where life could be conceived of and nurtured and put forth. I think of the moon as also the body of the person that birthed you, the body of the person that birthed them. So I think of it also as like this lineage holder because our bodies are a physical representation of not only our DNA inheritance, but all of the emotional, psychological, spiritual inheritance that we also come with. And yes, that is not all physical, but we live it out through the physical body. Because the moon is our physical body, it's how we live out our spiritual purpose, or it's how we live out our life's purpose. It's how we live out our purpose of our lineage, even, you might think. So it's like whatever was unhealed by my, ancestors, whatever they did, whatever I was passed down, I can locate it in my body. I can understand it through my own physical experience, my emotional body. I experience all that because I have a body. And so I was given this body through this lineage of people. And I am going to live out my life's purpose and heal all that stuff from my lineage through the body, through each and every day, through time and through space. Now, the sign that our moon was in when we were born, or the sign that the moon was in when we were born, is really important because it also tells us about our ease on a physical plane and also our struggle. So the moon does really well in 2 signs. Cancer, that's where its home is. So every planet rules 1 to 2 signs. So the moon in Cancer, super strong, which means you're probably really good at nurturing and nourishing, or family nourishment is really important to you, or there's something about the place where your moon is in, the house that it's in, that's really strong for you. So say your moon is in Cancer in the 10th house, the house of career or public reputation. You might have like a really solid career, or you might have a really solid reputation as someone who's giving and nurturing, or at least really good at the thing that they're public about. So moon in Cancer will lend anything it touches a lot of strength and a lot of heft, like it's resourced. It comes in with its own resources. And all of that is shifted and changed depending on what other planets it's talking to. But just baseline, moon in Cancer, great placement. I would buy it off of you if I could. Now, moon in Taurus is also excellent because the moon in Taurus is said to be exalted. So it's up on high. It does really well there. We love a moon in Taurus. It's very opulent. It loves all the luxuries. And it also is really nourishing and nurturing. I talk about it in my book, You Were Born for This, but Frida Kahlo had moon in Taurus in her 10th house. Now, obviously, she had a really hard time in the physical realm, in her body. And because the moon was in Taurus, or we could say her moon was in the 10th house in Taurus, exalted, letting us know that there was something really potent and really strong that she would be famous for or lifted up around that had to do with her 10th house of career, of reputation, of being known. And because the moon in Taurus is a Venus-ruled sign, because Taurus is a Venus-ruled sign, the moon there in the 10th house can have something to do with art or justice or something about culture creation. So that's just an example of it doesn't mean that everything in the body is going to be good for you, but wherever the moon is, if it's in Taurus or Cancer, can lend an extra strength to the situations that belong to that house. So say your moon was in Cancer in the 5th house, there might be something exceptional about your relationship with children or the children in your life or any work that you do that are about reproductive rights or conception or about art and about maybe even young people in art. Or you might just be really good at having amazing hobbies and other practices where you have a lot of fun because that's all stuff that is related to the 5th house. Okay, the moon in Capricorn is said to be in its exile or detriment. And then the moon in Scorpio is said to be in its fall. And these are two of the tougher places. Does that mean you have a hard life? No, it is just the mixed bag of astrology. But people with their moon in Capricorn might struggle to nourish themselves, might be the responsible one in the family, might have a harder time really receiving the nourishment and the nurturance and the nutrients that they need. There's something here about learning how to give yourself what you need, that you deserve to be taken care of, and that, yes, you're amazing at working really hard and being really responsible and having things figured out and having a list and all of those things, and you still deserve care. So the moon in Capricorn is in the opposite sign of Cancer, where it belongs. So it struggles. It's a little bit in exile. And it could mean that you are really good at working with people that are exiled, either literally or figuratively in some way, shape, or form. It might mean that you resonate really deeply with people that are living in a way that astrologically we would say is in detriment or in exile. So it's oppositional, it's contrarian, which can create a lot of really interesting points of view and life experience. But because the moon is about living your life out in a day-to-day way, or tells us how you do that, we want to make sure that you're getting nourished and nurtured and that you get to sleep, And then the moon in Scorpio is the opposite of Taurus, where it's exalted and you could be famous for doing this thing. The moon in Scorpio is in a situation where it could have a really tough time. Now, Scorpio obviously is a sign that is about intense emotions and cathartic emotional experiences. And it is really resilient. Beyonce is somebody that comes to mind with a moon in Scorpio. And, you could say that she's definitely does really well, or her music, I don't know, this is just my personal taste, but her music where she's really angry and she lets that out and she lets that Scorpio possessive intensity just run wild. Don't Hurt Yourself, for example, that song. That's a very Scorpio moon coded song. That is this is my intense emotional reality and this is how I'm going to channel it. So she's obviously one of the most famous women in the world. She has really great stuff in her chart that signifies that. But the moon is a place where conception might be, a situation. And she's talked openly about losing, miscarrying, not being able to carry a pregnancy to term and how difficult that was for her and I think at that point when she did that, it was a really important thing for her to be open about. It probably helped a lot of folks that were in similar situations. So there can be that kind of feeling to it, or that kind of experience that goes along with it, or having, just like harrowing things happen during the whole process. And she's somebody that is constantly reinventing herself through her work. And we know that her body of work is not just these like amazing things, like fully conceived albums and moments and cultural markers in time, but they would have taken all of these little tiny little acts of work, of service, of study, of practice, day to day to day to day to day to day to day. So Moon in Scorpio knows how to be so intense in their daily life that, again, we have to be like, are you sleeping? Are you hydrating? Are you eating? Like, are we taking care of the whole system? Because once we get, in that zone, we're going to be super intense about whatever we do on a daily level, in a daily kind of way. And that's what it's supposed to be. So those are the like situations where things are like technically good and technically challenging. But it doesn't mean that you won't be wildly successful and happy and loved and, fully expressed. But a moon in Capricorn and a moon in Scorpio has an edge to it where it might forgo what it needs physically, emotionally, in order to do something that is quite tremendous, or because of whatever it's fixated on, or because of whatever mountain it wants to climb, because of whatever hard work it's doing. And then the moon and all the other signs are technically, from the vantage point I'm talking about, are kind of neutral. Doesn't mean they don't have a very specific style. They all do. Moon in Aries is going to be really head first. It's going to be really passionate. It's going to be really in your face. They're going to have to live their daily life out, taking some risks every single day and getting the energy out. Moon in Aries is like, I have energy. I got to let it go. I've got to move with my own inspiration. Moon in Taurus, exalted, we know it. It's got to do something every day that's going to build towards a bigger monument. Moon in Gemini, what does it have to do? Listen to podcasts, talk to 1 million people, write a paper, research 17 other papers, information, writing. On a daily level, it needs to be in a lot of different intellectual exchanges. Moon in Cancer, we know it's in its own home, it's resourced. A moon in Cancer, a little bit every day, has to emote, has to go with the flow. It's very changeable, and it has to nurture and take care of. Obviously, if we do that too much, it's not a good deal. Moon in Leo has to be applauded a little bit every day. Moon in Leo has to be demonstrative, has to be a little dramatic, needs to live out some kind of life's purpose that's going to like feel theatrical a tad, or like it's in the realm of something being mythic, right? So Moon in Leo wants a little heightened excitement every day and needs to feel like they're in a constant process of self-expressing, of like telling the good joke at lunch or at the party, or wearing the outfit that's going to get a little, ooh, that's so cute. That kind of thing on a daily level, really important for a moon in Leo to receive the accolades. It's not good if we're oriented fully towards that, but it needs a little of that appreciation energy happening. Moon in Virgo is good because the moon likes to be in earth signs and water signs, except for Capricorn and Scorpio. But moon in Virgo is technically good. Obviously, moon in Virgo on a daily level is going to have to be very health conscious or very detail focused. It's going to want to have facts and data and things like the medicine cabinet situated in such a way, organized in such a way, pens in such a container, like daily life and the little tiny moments of it are going to be really important to someone with a moon in Virgo. We need it to be constantly helping us to integrate information and to remove what is extraneous, to strip things down to what is important, and to get down to the nitty-gritty. and it's going to have to work hard at something every day. It's going to feel better once it learns something, works at it, skill builds, and then is of service. A moon in Virgo needs to be of service every day. Sorry, but it's true. Obviously, that could go wrong if it's the only thing that it does. Moon in Libra needs beauty, needs to express itself, needs justice, needs to be so involved in making sure things are balanced, needs flowers, needs color, needs sound, needs dancing, needs gorgeousness. And will probably be very off kilter when they feel that there's something unjust happening or like there's something out of balance in the environment. By color, by sound, by texture, by people, by matters of justice and equality. So there's a lot of emphasis on what could balance this, what could make it beautiful, and also how to be everybody's best friend. Just in a daily way, you're going to want to make friends. It's just part of a moon in Libra. Moon in Scorpio we talked about. Daily, moon in Scorpio needs to be in a cathartic mode, needs to be able to be really intense and focused on something, and needs to be always constantly moving through some kind of transformative alchemical process. Moon in Sag obviously needs adventure, obviously needs to feel like it's on a mythic quest, obviously needs to feel like, wow, the limits are endless. The horizon is limitless. I can just move and go with my own intuition. Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, all fire signs, they need to be able to, if your moon is in a fire sign, you need to be able to move with your inspiration. The last thing I want you to do is feel hemmed in or caged in. Moon in Capricorn, we already talked about. Moon in Capricorn needs to be working towards a goal a little bit every day and focusing on how to take care of yourself, juxtaposed to working on those goals. Needs to be responsible, reliable, all of those things, but needs to like make it, if you don't feel good, you need to just like make a little move towards accomplishing something and you will feel better. Moon in Aquarius, we need intellectual rigor. We need to learn something. We need freedom. We need space. So every single day, a moon in Aquarius person needs to be engaged with some kind of rigorous intellectual activity, or needs to be every day doing something that is like, I'm different. I live on the margins. I don't need all of the attention. A moon in Aquarius doesn't need attention. Like maybe you've got Sun in Leo or Venus in Leo and that needs attention. Great. But moon in Aquarius is like, let me look at things from the outskirts. Let me look at things from the margins. Let me put myself over here. I need to be with the people. I need to work towards some kind of humanitarian cause. I need to do something that is going to give me some intellectual understanding. I need to understand the systems, how they work, how they function, and then I need to problem solve from a great distance, but for the masses in some way, shape, or form. But learning can always be something that we can count on for a moon in Aquarius. It's going to make you feel better. Moon in Pisces, little poetry, little romance, a little escapism. Moon loves to be in Pisces. There's nothing wrong with the moon in Pisces, unless you're trying to get something done, unless you're trying to, work in linear time and space. But if you're not pressed about that, then a moon in Pisces is needing a vast array of experiences and needs to flow like the ocean, needs to ebb and tides and whirlpools and just like the vast, big experience. Obviously, a moon in Pisces can feel a little untethered in a daily way. So something that can really help moon in Pisces is to do something that will help you feel expansive and feel connected to something bigger than yourself, but remain grounded. You need a little poetry. You need a little beauty. You need a little wisdom in your daily life. You need to be able to connect to something bigger than yourself in your daily life. If everything's too little and too much about the minutia or too much about the responsibilities, you're going to try to escape. So we'll give you a very purposeful practice of connecting to something bigger than yourself. So you don't have to feel like you need to escape reality. All right. I hope that was helpful. Look at the Chani app, pull up your moon sign in the Chani app, look at what house it's in, and then look at what planets it's talking to, because that can color everything. Like a moon in Pisces conjunct Saturn is very different than a moon in Pisces conjunct Venus, like totally different vibe, even though it's in the same style. So the other thing we want to talk about is what planets your moon is talking to. Go to the Chani app, read about it, look it up, let me know what other questions you have. You can also take a course. I have a course that you can download called Your Moon if you want to learn more about it. All right, y'all, that's the episode. These are long. I know that when I start yapping about the questions that people write in about, I just go off on a tangent. Let me know if it's helpful. Let me know if you like it. I mean, you can always press pause. You can always skip ahead. You can always just listen to the reading and not listen to whatever else I'm saying. You can do whatever you want. This is free for you to do. Okay, I'm sending you all the love. May Venus's retrograde, again, I know it's a review, but may it be helping us to review what has worked in the past for movement work, for the movements we are a part of, that we are in the line of, that we are receiving the wisdom of, what worked, what didn't, what we need now, because we're living in a moment that's very different and unique, as all moments through history are. What do we take from the past? What do we review? What do we consolidate? What do we put into practice? How do we joyfully move into the world loudly, singing, dancing, creating beauty as we move towards our vision for justice? I love you. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for tuning in. I believe in us. I believe in our ability to move through this moment and to use the severity of this moment to double down on our efforts to build the world we know we can build, we know we can manifest. Next week, come back, because we're dealing with the first eclipse near the South Node in Virgo in a couple of decades and a Mercury retrograde. Woo! Okay, I'll see you back here for more of that then. Bye for now.